on Cynicism. An acquaintance, evidently attracted to Cynicism, wanted to know who was qualified to be a cynic and what one could expect from it. "We will consider that topic at length," Epictetus said, "but this much I can tell you already. Whoever undertakes the project without God's approval is inviting God's anger and will only make a public spectacle of himself. I mean, in a well-run household, you don't find just anybody presuming to think, 'I should be running the place.' Otherwise, the owner, when he turns around and sees someone insolently giving orders, will haul him outside and have him whipped. It's no different in the community of God and men. Here too there is a master who assigns everything its place. You are the sun. You are empowered as you move to make the year and the seasons, cause plants to grow and flourish, rouse the winds or calm them, keep men's bodies sufficiently warm, go revolve, put everything great and small into motion. You are a cow. When a lion appears, you know what to do, or you won't even survive to regret it. You are a bull. Step out and face the lion. It is your job, it suits you, and you have what it takes. You can lead the army to Troy. Be Agamemnon. You can take on Hector in single combat. Be Achilles. If Thersites had presumed to ask for command, either he would have been turned down flat, or he would have made an ass of himself in front of hundreds of witnesses. You need to consider the present business carefully, because it isn't what you think. Already I wear a tattered coat, like the cynics, and I already sleep on the ground, just as I will when I go cynic. I have but to add a satchel and a staff to become an itinerant beggar who hectors everyone crossing his path. If I see a man who shaves his body hair, I'll be sure to lay into him, just like someone elaborately coiffed, or seen strutting around in finery. If that's how you picture cynicism, it's better that you keep your distance. In fact, don't go anywhere near it. The position is not for you. If you picture it realistically, however, and don't think yourself unworthy, consider next the project's scale. To begin with, you have to set a different example with your behavior. No more blaming God or man. Suspend desire completely. Train aversion only on things under your control. Banish anger, rage, jealousy, and pity. Be indifferent to women, fame, boys, and tempting food. Other people indulge in these things, protected by walls or the gloom of night. They have many ways of hiding. They can lock the gate and station someone outside their chamber. If anyone comes, tell them the master's out, or he's occupied. The cynic, in contrast, only has his honor to protect him. Without it, he will be exposed to shame, naked and out of doors. Honor is his house, his gate, his guards, his cloak of darkness. He must not have anything personal he wants to hide. Otherwise, so long, he has killed the cynic, the free spirit, the man of the open air. He has begun to fear factors outside his control and crave concealment, which he cannot have even if he tries, because he has no place or means to hide. If this teacher and trainer at large has had the bad fortune to fail, what mortification he must feel. With all this weighing on his conscience, how is he going to find the complete confidence he needs to give other people advice? There's no way. It's just not possible. To begin with, then, you must purify your intellect by training your thoughts. My mind represents for me my medium, like wood to a carpenter, or leather to a shoemaker. The goal in my case is the correct use of impressions. The body is irrelevant to me, as are its members. Death, too, whether of the whole body or a part, can come when it likes. An exile? Where can they send me? Nowhere outside the world, since wherever I end up, the sun will be there, as will the moon and stars. There will still be dreams, birds of augury, and other means of staying in touch with the gods. Disciplining the mind, though, is just the start of the true cynic's duty. He has to realize that he has been sent by God as a messenger for the benefit of others, by bringing them to an awareness of how confused they are about what is good and bad, and how this causes them to look for good in vain, having no clue as to its true location. The cynic should realize that in addition to being a messenger, he is also a spy. He needs to be like Diogenes, when he was captured in the battle of Chaeronea and dragged before Philip. The cynic is a bona fide spy. He reports back on who is friend or foe. He must check and double-check before he returns with the truth, to guard against fear and false reports. He should be prepared, if necessary, to mount the podium and, like Socrates, say, "Where are you going, you poor souls, and what are you doing? You drift about as if you were blind. You forsake the right road for a cul-de-sac. You look for peace and happiness in the wrong places, and you're suspicious of anyone who tries to point you in the right direction. Don't look for it in externals. It isn't in the body, and if you doubt me, just look at Miron or Aphelius. It isn't in wealth. Look at Croesus, or look at the rich of today. You'll see how unhappy they are. It doesn't lie in office. Otherwise, those who have been consuls multiple times would be happy, which they are not. Whom are we going to trust on this score? You, who see only the surface and are dazzled by wealth and power, or these people personally? What do they tell us? Just hear them groan and complain. They say their lives are worse and less safe for having been consul more than once, thereby attracting fame and notoriety. Being king is not the answer either, otherwise it would have made Nero or Sardanapalus happy. Even Agamemnon, a better ruler than either of them, was not therefore happy. When his men were still snoring away, what was he doing? He pulled many a hair from his head, roots and all. What did he say? I pace up and down, my spirit is troubled, and my heart is pounding right out of my chest. Poor man, what's worrying you? It can't be money. You are rich in gold and bronze. Nor can it be your health. You're fine. Your problem is you have neglected and ruined the faculty with which we exercise the will to get or to avoid, to act or not to act. How? By not learning the true nature of the good to which it is born and of the nature of evil, or learning where its interest lies. Whenever something that is none of its interest goes awry, it thinks, "Poor me, the Greeks are under attack." Too bad for your mind, rather, the one thing you have neglected from indifference. They are going to die at the Trojans' hands. And if they are not killed by the Trojans, won't they die regardless? Yeah, but not all at once. What difference does that make? If death is wrong, then it is wrong whether they are going singly or together. After all, death signifies nothing more than the separation of the body and soul. And if the Greeks die, do they close the door behind them? Isn't death in your power too? It is. So why complain? Alas, to be king and to have to carry Zeus's scepter. A king can no more be unfortunate than God. So what does that make you? Right, a shepherd. That is how you react anyway, like a shepherd, whining when a wolf snatches one of his sheep. And your subjects too. Alas, they are sheep for real. Why did you come? Your desire was not in danger, was it? Or your choice, impulse, or aversion? No, Paris ran off with my brother's wife. Wasn't that a blessing in disguise, to rid your brother of his little wench of a wife? Well, should we just let the Trojans insult us? Are the Trojans wise or foolish? If they are wise, do not quarrel with them. If they are fools, ignore them. If it's not any of these things I've been protecting, then where is the good located? Pray tell us, great messenger and spy. It's where you don't think or care to look. Otherwise you would find that it's within you, and you wouldn't go wandering off among externals, which are none of yours. Turn your attention on yourself. Examine your belief system. What is the good as you feature it? It means serenity, happiness, and independence. Very good. But doesn't it also appear naturally great in your imagination, priceless and invulnerable to harm? Where are you going to find serenity and independence? In something free or something enslaved? Something free. And your body, is it free or slave? I don't know. You are aware, I presume, that it is subject to fever, gout, rheum, and dysentery, not to mention despots, fires, and weapons, anything in a word that is physically stronger. I agree, it's subject to these. So how can the body or any of its parts be considered free, or great, or priceless? In essence, it is a corpse, a thing of mud and dust. Do you have anything that is free? Now I'm inclined to think not. Look, can you be forced to assent to what appears to you wrong? No. Or to dissent from the plain truth? No. Then you see you do have within you a share of freedom. And can any of you have the will to desire or avoid, choose or refuse, plan or anticipate, if you don't first formulate the impression of something advantageous or improper? No? So here too you have a measure of freedom and independence. Poor devil, why not try focusing on that? Why not look after that for a change? That's where you should go, looking for the good. How can someone who has nothing, no clothes, no hearth or home, no luxuries, no slaves, no city he can call his own, how is it possible for a person like that to be happy? Well, God has sent among you a person who will prove, by example, that it can be done. Look at me, I have no home, no city, no property, no slave. I sleep on the ground. I haven't a wife or children. No officers' quarters, just earth and sky, and one lousy cloak. What more do I need? I am cheerful, I am tranquil, and I am free. You've never seen me fail to get what I want, or get what I tried to avoid. I have never been angry with God, or another human being. I've never yelled at anyone. Have you ever seen me with a sad expression? The people before whom you bow and tremble, when I meet them, I treat them as if they were slaves. In fact, whenever they see me, they all without exception think that they are in the presence of their Lord and Master. There you have the words of the authentic cynic, words that faithfully reflect his purpose and personality. Most of you, however, identify the cynic with minor details like his satchel, his stick, and his large jaws. Large, I suppose, the better to wolf down the food he's given, if he doesn't hoard it, or with his embarrassing habit of shouting abuse at passers-by, or with the broad shoulder he leaves bare. You see how big the project is that you propose to take on? First get a mirror, look at your shoulders, check out your loins, examine your thighs. You are about to sign up for the Olympics, not some desultory imaginary match. If you lose at the Olympics, you cannot just leave. You have to suffer the indignity of having the whole world watch. Not just the Athenians, Spartans, or citizens of Nicopolis. Everyone. A casual contestant will be trounced, but not before he suffers thirst, endures heat exhaustion, and swallows handfuls of sand. Plan carefully, know your limits, be reasonable, and don't go forward without God's say-so. If He picks you, be aware that in addition to greatness, His plans for you entail a good deal of discomfort. Because this is a particularly charming clause in the Cynic contract, you are going to be beaten like a donkey, and must love your tormentors as if you were their father or brother. Or would you rather invoke the emperor in their presence? Caesar, you may have brought peace to the world, but look at the violence I have to put up with. Take me to the proconsul at once. Caesar and the proconsul mean nothing to the Cynic. He only calls upon Zeus, whom he serves as an ambassador. If he suffers some hardship, he is confident that it is only Zeus putting him through his paces. I mean, Hercules did not wallow in self-pity when he performed his labors for Eurystheus. He did what he was told without reluctance. So the Cynic who takes his orders from Zeus and has earned the right to carry the staff of Diogenes, should we expect him to hesitate or complain? Listen to how Diogenes, laid low with fever, still lectured passers-by. Idiots! Where are you going in such a hurry? You are going a great distance to see those damned athletes compete. Why not stop a bit and to see a man do combat with illness? A man of his mettle is not one to accuse God, who chose him of unfairness in making him ill. He positively prides himself on his hardships, and is bold enough to be a roadside attraction. What would he blame God for? That he cuts such an admirable figure? What would the charge be? That his virtue is too glaringly bright? Here just remember what he says about poverty, death, and pain, how he compares his happiness with that of the great king. Or rather, he doesn't think there is any comparison. For where you find unrest, grief, fear, frustrated desire, failed aversion, jealousy and envy, happiness has no room for admittance. And where values are false, these passions inevitably follow. The young man asks if he got sick, whether as a Cynic he should consent to receive a friend to help take care of him. Yes, but where are you going to find a Cynic's friend? He would have to be someone just like him to be worthy of being called his friend. He would have to share equally in the scepter and the kingdom. It is a worthy minister indeed who deserves a Cynic's friendship, as Diogenes was worthy of Antisthenes, and Crates of Diogenes. Don't imagine that it is enough to become his friend and be accepted into his home. Just go up to a Cynic and introduce yourself. If that's your plan, better start looking for a nice rubbish dump in the event of illness. One protected from the north wind, so you don't catch your death of cold. Friendship, it seems to me, discourses mean no more to you than moving in with somebody and sponging off him or her indefinitely. You have no business contemplating so great a project as cynicism. Well, the young man said, what about marriage and children? Will the Cynic choose to take these duties on? Give me a state composed of wise men, and you may not be able to find a single person adopting the profession of Cynic. For whose sake, after all, would one take on so rigorous a way of life? Still, if we suppose that there is a Cynic there, I see no reason why he should not marry and have children. His wife will be wise like him and like her father, and their children will grow up to be the same. But with things as they are in a virtual crisis, it's better perhaps that the Cynic not be distracted by domestic duties. He needs to focus on his sacred ministry and be free to move around, not be tied down by personal obligations that he cannot very well ignore, but which, if he honors, will detract from his role as messenger, scout, and herald of the gods. Consider the responsibilities he owes to his father-in-law and his wife's other relations, to his wife as well. In the end, he is reduced to the role of nurse and provider. To give just a few examples, he has to find a pot to heat water in for the baby, and a tub to bathe him in. Wool for his wife after she's given birth, together with oil, a cot, a drinking cup. The list of accessories is already long. And he has other duties and distractions. In the end, what's left of that king devoted to the commons? The king who has the people in his care and so many concerns. Where is the king whose duty it is to watch over others who have married and got children, to see which of them is treating his wife well, which badly, who is quarreling, which households are prospering, which are in decline? In effect, he makes rounds like a doctor, taking his patient's pulse, alternately saying, "You have a fever. You have a headache. You have gout. You should fast. You should eat. You should not bathe. You need an operation. You have to be cauterized." How is someone encumbered by private duties going to find time for this? And he has to put little coats on his children's backs and send them off to school with little notebooks and little pens, and make up a little bed for them at night, because after all, his children will not be cynics straight out of the womb. If he does not do all this for them, he would have done better to expose them at birth, rather than kill them by long neglect. Now look at the condition we've reduced our cynic to. He's more a butler than a king. Yes, but Crates had a wife. You are talking about a circumstance that arose out of love, and a wife who was Crates' virtual twin. We, on the other hand, are discussing normal marriages, not special circumstances, and our analysis has not discovered, in our present state, that marriage is advisable for the cynic. Then how will he help the community carry on? For God's sake, who benefits society more? People who produce 2 or 3 brats with runny noses to survive them, or those who supervise in each person's life what they care about or mistakenly neglect? Who benefited the Thebans more? Those who gave them children, or Epaminondas, who died childless? Did Priam with his 50 worthless sons, or Donius or Aeolus contribute more to society than Homer? Their contribution to society as poet or general is considered more than fair return for their failure to marry or have children. Should not the kingdom of the cynic be reckoned reasonable exchange as well? I fear we don't appreciate its grandeur, nor do we have a fair idea of Diogenes' character. We are influenced by the sad spectacle of today's cynics, these dogs who beg at the table and hang about the gate, who have nothing in common with the cynics of old, except for maybe farting in public, not much else. Because if we did, we would not be surprised or disappointed if a cynic does not marry or procreate. My friend, he fathers everyone. Every man is his son, every woman his daughter. That is how he regards everyone, and how much he cares for them. Don't think he hectors strangers in a spirit of impudence. He is acting like a father or a brother, like the vicar of God, the father of everyone. Now go on, ask me whether he will take part in public life. Look, is any form of public life superior to his? Why should he stoop to preparing speeches about income and expenditures for the Athenians, say when he is called upon to address everyone, Athenians, Corinthians, Romans, and not about debits and credits or war and peace, but about happiness and unhappiness, success and misfortune, freedom and slavery? You are asking me if someone will take part in politics when they are already engaged in politics on a major scale. Ask me further if he will hold office, and again I will say to you, fool, what office is superior to the one he has? Furthermore, the cynic's body should be in good shape, since his philosophy will not carry as much conviction coming from someone pale and sickly. He not only needs to show his qualities of soul in order to convince ordinary people that it is possible to be a gentleman without the material goods they usually admire. He also has to prove with his physique that his simple, frugal life outdoors is wholesome. What I testify to, my body testifies to as well, which is what Diogenes did. He went about with a healthy glow on his face, and his body alone was enough to win the common people over. A cynic who excites pity is taken for a beggar. Everyone is disgusted and walks around him. The cynic shouldn't be so filthy that he drives people away. His very ruggedness should be of a clean and pleasant kind. The cynic ought to be naturally sharp and witty too. Otherwise he's just a boring windbag. To be equal to every occasion that calls for a quick reply, the way Diogenes responded to the man who greeted him with, "So, Diogenes, you don't believe the gods exist?" With, "How can you say that when I know that you are headed for hell?" Or again, when Alexander the Great stood over him while he was resting and recited, "A man charged with making decisions shouldn't sleep the night away." Diogenes, still half asleep, replied, "Who has the people in his care, and so many concerns." Above all, though, his mind should be purer than the sun, because anyone guilty of wrongdoing, who presumes to lecture others, can only be considered slick and unscrupulous. For you see how it is, the kings and tyrants of this world, even if they are corrupt, can reprimand and punish offenders by virtue of their arms and soldiers. Instead of weapons and bodyguards, his conscience gives the cynic the same authority. For he works overtime on his fellow man's behalf. What sleep he gets only leaves him purer than when he first lay down. His thoughts are never unworthy of a friend and minister of the gods. "Lead me, Zeus, lead me, destiny," is always on his lips, as well as, "If it pleases the gods, so be it." Conscious of all this, why shouldn't he venture to speak truth to his own brothers, his own children, his own relations, in a word? A person of his conscience is neither bossy nor officious. He is not poking into other people's business when he looks after the common welfare. He is tending to his own. If you disagree, then buy your lights a general who inspects, drills, and oversees his troops. Punishing those who get out of line is intrusive too. If, however, you reprimand others with a bit of cake under your arm, I will say, wouldn't you rather go and wolf down in secret what you've stolen there? What are other people's affairs to you? Who are you? Are you the bull or the queen of the hive? Show me proof of your authority, such as the queen is endowed with by nature. If you are a drone disputing control over the bees, expect your fellow citizens to get rid of you, just as worker bees get rid of the drones. The cynic's power of endurance should be such that he appears to most people insensible, a veritable block of wood. As far as he's concerned, nobody insults or hits or hurts him. He has personally surrendered his body to be used or abused however anyone likes. He knows that whatever is inferior in that respect in which it is inferior must yield to what is superior, and that his body is inferior to the crowd. What's physically weaker, in other words, is inferior to what is physically stronger. So he never condescends to compete with them on their level. He has completely renounced things outside himself and makes no claim to things that are by nature enslaved. But when it comes to matters of the will and the use of impressions, then you'll see how many eyes he has. Enough to make Argus seem blind by comparison. With him, there is no premature assent, mistaken impulse, frustrated desire, unsuccessful aversion, or unrealized purpose. Hence, no blame, envy, or humiliation. All his effort and energy go into this. As for the rest, he yawns away in a state of perfect indifference. Of free will, there can be neither thief nor tyrant. Of the body, however, yes. Of material things, yes. Of honors and offices, yes. Which is why he is not interested in them. When someone tries using these things to affect him, he says, "Go look for children to intimidate. Masks are meant to frighten them. I know there's nothing behind them." This, then, is the nature of cynicism. You consider undertaking it, then please take some time to judge your aptitude, and to remember what Hector said to Andromache. "No, go inside and see to your weaving instead. Men will see to war. Men, and me in particular." He sensed both his own endowment, you see, and his wife's incapacity.